I'm Bill Barrett, and I approve of this message.
I've met a lot of people in this town that I hadn't met before, despite my living here for 20 years. I've actually begun to enjoy this. I must have got hit in the head really, really hard. We've reached the point now where it's almost not worth speaking of the political specifics. It's time to speak about the winning and the losing is going to be based entirely on turnout. They are working 24/7 trying to get their people out. We have them terrified. We need to get our numbers up. I want you all to come to the poll. Bring as many people as you can. If you have to put them in a van, hogtie, get them here. We need every single vote. This could be decided by one. We cannot rest on any of our laurels. We have to get the vote out. That's where we are right now. Oh, I'm a fiscal conservative. My opponent, by his own admission, is a progressive liberal who wants to spend more of your money. It's time to stop this. Come out and vote the 8th. Bring every right-thinking individual that you know with you. We're at the numbers game now. So who wants to be next? Ron? Mike?
I was 4 hours back then.
All right, unlike Bill, I'm going to use a few notes. What I thought I'd do tonight, first of all, I'm Ron Bonagura. Been a 61-year resident of Gardiner, and family has been very involved in the growth of Gardiner over the years. As far as I can remember, back into the 1950s, my family has always been active politically and trying to make Gardiner a better place to live. But I thought I would address a few questions that our opponents have thrown on us over the last few weeks of this campaign. The first issue was that they're screaming about why no debates? Why won't we debate them? Well, we decided as a Republican committee and the candidates, myself, Bill, and Mike, that Gardiner debates in the past have basically drawn kind of the fringe elements of the Democratic Party. And you almost felt like you were about ready to get a pie thrown at you from the audience of those debates. I'm not sure I'm able enough to dodge a flying shoe as well as President Reagan did back when he addressed the Iraq situation. I'm sorry, Bush. But when you debate them in this forum, it's like Abraham Lincoln debating George McGovern. George McGovern's going to win every one of those debates with that audience. So we decided to have a night like tonight, invited the whole town to come out and see us, meet us, and hear what we have to say. And we thought that that would be more than adequate. The second issue that you see in the papers is, if elected, we are going to send Gardiner back to the Stone Age. Well, if you look at all the candidates that are running for office, their concerns, as spelled out in the Gardiner Gazette, the New Paltz Times, and in Bill Barrett's case on Facebook, they are all pretty similar. So if it can be said about us that we will take Gardiner back 30 years, it must be said that our Democratic opponents will do the same. The real issue is in taking this town forward, which party will bankrupt the town. And my belief is that the progressive liberal party of Carl Zatz will take us into bankruptcy if he is elected. We can thank God that Carl stepped down 4 years ago and let Joe Katz kind of save Gardiner from bankruptcy. If the Democrats had not thrown Joe under the bus this past caucus season, the Republicans would have been kind of fine with Joe and would not have had to beg Bill to selflessly step out and challenge Carl from saving Gardiner from bankruptcy. And by the way, Bill has taken a lot of heat for putting his issue answers on, his issue answers for the Gazette, not putting them into the Gazette. Instead, Bill chose to use the same medium that revolutions all around the world are using, that of Facebook and Twitter. But I forget that the progressive in Gardiner does not apply to technology, as we can all tell from the cell tower debacle. Even though the Gazette claims nonpartisan, a quick look at the editorial board composition shows that it is very partisan. So Bill, we admire your use of technology and using Facebook and Twitter to get your thoughts and ideas out to the community at large. The other thing that comes up quite a bit is that we're anti-open space, and anti-library, and anti-zoning. Well, funding for the purchase of the Kiernan farm was really spurred on by the efforts of our own Rich Koenig. The bond issue to purchase open space using taxpayer money was passed by 1 vote. So taxpayer-funded open space purchases was not a citizen mandate. Voluntary funding for open space is something we can all support. And this in particular gives the affluent in Gardiner the opportunity to show their true love of Gardiner vistas. Are we anti-library? Well, one of our greatest contributors to this year's election campaign organizes, provides, and cooks all the chicken for the library's very successful fundraising chicken barbecue dinner at Majestic Park. Voluntary contributions to the building of the library and for its continued operation comes from citizens of all political persuasions in Gardiner. What about zoning? Everyone knows that the latest zoning laws are a bit too aggressive, and the fact that we have in works right now at the ZIC Commission, the Zoning Improvement Committee, bears testimony that the zoning regulations need to be adjusted more to the needs of citizens and businesses in our town. And then lastly, we hear that we are not involved in programs or committees or various other citizen groups. Well, my question is, where was this group of Democratic candidates in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, when we and our families were leading Gardiner out of a post-war economic system, keeping our farms and businesses above water, making Gardiner an attractive community for people like them to settle in. And now they want to shut the door to future generations from buying and building homes in this precious jewel of a town. Well, I think we're in a new time. We have a new vision, a new energy, and all this can be realized in Gardiner. We thank you for supporting Bill Barrett, Mike Boylan, and Ron Bonagura for Gardiner Politics.
I've been around, even though Bernetta Calderon Mike, and I'm just going to use that last name, thinks that I am the leader of the Good Old Boys Club. Actually, what you never looked into is the rules of that are you have to be born and bred here. I only moved up here in 1969, and still today I'm reminded by a lot of people I'm not a local. And that's fine, because there are rules. But with that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with us taking this town back 20 years ago or 30 years ago, the way the people were back then when I first moved to Gardiner and first got involved, because it was not this backstabbing, situation that we have now going on in our town. We've got a lot of folks that have moved here, and that's fine, they're entitled to move here, but not to shut the door with the, I always call them the three strikers. The gate hit them on their ass, and nobody else can move in. So with that being said, I can't say much more than what Ron said. He said an awful lot here in a very short time, but a lot better than I did. I didn't have a chance to write that on the tractor today. But I will say this, my goal and what I'd like to do is be able to make the hard decisions and look at folks in the eye and say, you know what, it's a great program, but we just can't afford it right now. Everybody I've talked to as I've been going around says the biggest problem with them is everybody wants what's in their pocket and they want to spend it not wisely. I think there's three guys here, Ron, Bill, and myself, can sit up there and say, you know what, along with Carmine and Rich, we can't afford it, guys. If you can figure out how to pay for it, just as Rich did with the open space, raised $50,000, and he knows I was on that committee also, but I got off of it because there's only so many times that you can have somebody on the other end of the phone tell you, go tell Marty to go you know where, before you had to get off the phone. So I had to get off of that program. I think we got a good ticket. I think they are afraid. But I do have to, what Bill just said though, is we've got to get out and tell 5 people for every person we go out. And we just got to multiply that out because they're running a little scared right now. That's why those big signs are out, and that's why they're concerned. Where are we coming from? Why are we not campaigning? Why are we not debating? I think we're doing things. We've got a nice group of people here. I like seeing Mary Beth Majestic in the room here. I don't know if they'd like to see her in here, but I like seeing her in here. Okay, so I think we got some good things going on. I think we have a good election coming up here. So thank you all for coming out, and next time I'll have better notes. All right?
I'm Bill Barrett, and I approve of this message.